Okay, so the next step is to get this set up on the lathe, and the first step here is to align this bolt, the bolt it pivots around, with the center of my tailstock, and then there's a set screw, a ring that's going to hold it in place. And okay, and so that's actually so the issue I have an issue here that this post won't go all the way through the banjo because the locking piece is there. So I actually can't get that far enough down to get to that. So I am going to have to cut off. I think I'll probably take off just about 3/4 of an inch to give myself some play off the bottom of this post, and that should then allow that to sit down at the right level. So I will be right back. Okay, so I trimmed about 3/4 of an inch off the bottom of the post. That looks like that's going to be okay now. So this is the locking ring that that comes with it. So we're gonna slip that on first, and then we need to align the bolt. Okay. With the tailstock, and that looks about perfect. Okay. So that's going to mean that when this is traveling back and forth, it's traveling sort of, it's pivoting at the center of the piece of wood. Okay, so I need to get this to be lined up here and then lock this in the banjo. And it says just to eyeball that. So now I've got, this is pivoting this way. It's actually going to be in the wrong place, so where my piece is, but I can redo this. So let me do that. Let me mount the piece in place, get this set up actually around it, and we'll just take a look and see what it looks at. The thing I'm most concerned about is I'm a bit of a carbide fan, so I'm not quite sure how this high-speed steel is going to work. But let's get it set up with the piece in the lathe and see how it looks. Okay, so let's try the jig on a piece here that I've got fairly close to round, and made some space with it. So start by just getting the actual jig in place. The height should be set now. I might just check it, seeing as though it's really the sort of the first time that I've used it, and actually, strangely, it's just a little bit high. I'm actually going to drop that down. Not quite sure what happened there, but I guess that's why I checked it. So then I bring this over and line this up so that the tip is going to be cutting to that center there. Okay, so let's bring this over. So what I need to do is I need to get the banjo square to the lathe bed. And then it says just to get the actual jig square by just by eyeballing it. So actually, you know what, I'm going to do that piece first, and then I can just bring it into position, because I need to get the actual center of the banjo pretty much underneath the center of the sphere. So hopefully what you're seeing now is that this is going back and forth, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to get myself in front of it and make sure that it is as centered as possible, so I'm taking off as little as possible when it starts up. And it says to run it at about 1500 RPM. So let's give that a go. That looks pretty good actually. So it's gonna start taking a little bit off there at the front, and then as I start moving it down. One thing I had to do was, I think I'm just at the sort of the edge of the 4-inch sort of different positioning on this. So what I ended up doing was actually moving this up just, I think, until I get a little bit cut, then I can put it back into its original hole. But I don't think that's going to make any difference. Okay, so my speed is set. I'm going to stand to one side. This is the first time I've done this, and I'm going to open that up just so I'm taking only the minimum amount off. And actually, I need to move this back because it's forwards of the center of the sphere. That's perfect. So the tip of the actual cutter is now actually at the very tip of the sphere, and that's just going to take off a tiny amount on that first pass. So I think that's pretty much where it needs to be. And I cut some out at this side so I could get this as far around as possible. Then obviously I'll cut that off and finish it by hand. But that looks like that's probably where it needs to be. So let me just get my safety gear on. Okay, so I've got it as close as I can, and then I actually just went over with an orbital sander with some 80 grit on it, and I think that's just wanted to make sure. There's a little bit of pitting in here, but I think it's actually, I don't think I can do any more with the jig. So I'm guessing I didn't have it quite aligned properly. It's hard to see, but at the end here, there's just a little bit of a knob there, but that should be easy to take out once I take it off and put it into a jig. So I am going to move this out of the way, and I have just a little bit of mineral spirits on a cloth, and we'll see just how that's going to look. So yeah, not too bad. There's some lines in there. It might take a little bit of sanding to get them out, and I don't know if I don't have that sharp enough, or whether that's just to be expected. But I will let that dry. I will start sanding, and then I'll take it off the chuck and finish it off. Maybe just take a few stills and just put them at the end of the video, and then maybe just one at the end when hopefully it'll be looking good. But that's definitely more spherical than I've managed before, so I think that's a success, and I think it'll get easier the more I use it. I think main thing is I need to sharpen that piece a bit, and I actually did talk to Craig, the guy who runs the company, and asked him if they had carbide, you know, sort of some kind of negative rate carbide piece, and he said that's something they're actually working on, so I'd be very interested in seeing that. Yeah, there's a few lines here. I think it's going to take a little bit of sanding, but again, I've got that nice spherical shape, and we'll see what that looks like when it's all done. Okay.